Do you know how to get an interview in McKinsey, BCG or Bain? Watch this video and find it out. Welcome back to Management Consulting Case Interview Preparation. In this second video, we are gonna understand how to get an interview in one of these three top management consulting firms. Let's have a look at it by understanding today's agenda. So today's agenda will cover three important aspects how to get an interview in one of these top firms. First is background, second the resume and cover letter, and third networking. So let's start with the background first. The background basically is what you have to do before building a resume or a cover letter in order to be a candidate that is actually attractive for a consulting firm. In fact, your background must show your consistency and your ability to deliver outstanding results. The background is something that you cannot build in the very last moment before applying to an interview. That is just the resume and the cover letter and also networking. But actually, the background is something that you build years over years. So it's something that unfortunately you cannot fix the last minute, and it's something that you have to spend a year basically in order to build a good background that could be attractive for one of these firms. But let's have a look about what are the essential elements of an important background that could be attractive for McKinsey, BCG or Bain. So I think that there are two important aspects. The first one is the academic and professional background, and the second one is the series of extracurricular activities that you can display. So let's start first with the academic and professional background. Here I want to divide it into three aspects. First, grades, then results, second, schools and companies, and third, the path. In terms of grades and results, consulting firms are looking for top performing candidates, so people who as a student achieve top 5 or 10% grades in your class, and as professional they delivered something that was way beyond the job description of their job, but was something remarkable that a few people achieved in their job position. In terms of school of companies, these companies are looking for big brand name, both in terms of school but also in terms of employer, because usually prestigious schools and blue chip employers have a very rigorous and selective selection process, and so if you studied there or worked there, this means that basically you went through those process and you got the student slot or the job role. And finally, in terms of path, they wanted to see a sort of consistency across your path, the fact that you had clear ideas about who you wanted to be and how you wanted to achieve that role in your life. And if there is something that is not so consistent, you really need to explain in your resume or cover letter why you decided to suddenly change from, for instance, a liberal arts background to something that was more into business or more quantitative and so on. Because you don't want to appear like a guy or a girl who didn't have clear ideas in mind and they decided to change several times during your life. Moving to the second bucket, which is the extracurricular activities. Here, I want again to break down this bucket into three different aspects. First is your personality, second, leadership, and third, experience. In terms of personality, you clearly don't want to appear as a guy that is totally unbalanced in his life. For instance, just as a nerd guy who studies all the day and has no time for personal life. Because at the end of the day, consulting is a people job, and you want to engage and interact with other people, so you need to show your involvement into some activities that are not related to your studies and your work, because this is an essential part of your personality and this is something that you want to clearly show to the interviewer. Leadership is something that is also really important for consulting. So you wanted to show that you took leadership roles into the local community, into your school, or into your the local clubs and so on. So this is something really important for a consulting firm. Is something that they really care about. You wanted to show that you started something and you led others into achieve something that was important. And finally, in terms of experience, this is really important because they wanted to understand that you accrued experience by traveling, by doing something different out of your comfort zone, and this is something really important because it will be important to build your business judgment and to understand that many situations can not only rely on analytical skills but also on business sense in order to find a solution and to solve a problem. So that's all in terms of your background. As mentioned, it is a long-term game. It is something that you cannot build at last minute, but it's something that you should be working on a daily basis. If you are late on this topic, I think that you should clearly think to gain more experience, such as doing more work or working for a different company or doing more extracurricular activities before applying to a firm if you think that your profile is weak on this point. But let's now move on to the second point of our agenda, which is resume and cover letter. So in terms of resume, I think it's very important that to understand that content formatting must be crafted in order to make you stand out from your peers. And I think that it's really important to look at two aspects. First is layout, and second is the content. In terms of layout, we wanted to look at length, structure, and font. The length must be the standard one page, so don't go beyond one page when you're drafting your circle. There are people who did a lot of experiences and managed to stay within one page. So no matter what you did in your life, stick to this one page. In terms of structure, keep it organized and structured, so use a section to clearly divide the different parts of your CV and also bullet points to show your achievement and the activities that you do in each of these sections. Play also with the indentations in order to display white space in your CV, because it's important that it will be not too filled and not to feel overwhelming from the reader. In terms of font, use some clear and simple professional fonts such as Times New Romans or Arials. Use a consistent size for headers and body, and don't use too much italic or bold, because these again give the impression that your CV is too overwhelming. In terms of content, again, we wanted to look at three aspects. First of all, information, then order, and finally wording. In terms of information, you have to only show, ideally, achievements that go beyond what is expected from your school or from your work, and try to quantify them as much as possible in terms of what was the results achieved in terms of percentage increase, in terms of dollars increase, or in terms of time, reduction of time in doing some process of improvement of efficiency and so on. In terms of order, you wanted to use a reverse chronological order and start always first from education as the first section, then as a second section as your professional experience, and as a third and final section as any additional information such as non-curricular activity and so on. And in terms of wording, the best format to use is this sentence structure: achieve X by doing Y. So you wanted to basically underline that you did something and you achieved something, and in order to achieve that you basically did some particular activities. This is the best wording that you can use as any sentence in any bullet points in any section of your CV. Let's now have a look at some sample of a CV. So as you can see, this is a common structure. I suggest you to use as a template one of the most prestigious business schools, such as the Harvard template, the Stanford template if you are in the US, or the INSEAD template if you are in Europe or in other part of the world. So as you can see, there is a clear section in which you have as a first starting point the simple contact details. So your name, and then you have your address, your email address, and your phone numbers. So a clear indication about how the people can reach you if they wanted to contact you. Then, as the first section, you have education, in which you state chronologically your school. If you have more than once, you will state them from the latest to the oldest, with a clear indication about the time you spent in the school, the name of the school, the location of the school, and the subject that you studied in that school. Then you will move to the next big section, the second one, which is about experience. So this will include your working experience with the indication of the time you spent in a particular company, the name of the company, the place of the company, and what you did there. So your job title and your achievement for each of these job title and for each of these company. The achievement must be written using bullet points, and your job title usually is written in bold. And as you can see from here, the sentence structure is the one that we showed previously. So achieved X by doing Y, and try to quantify each sentence as much as possible. And finally, the last section is about your additional information, and here you can include volunteering works, you can include your charity activities, you can include your awards or your particular skills and achievement as a sport team member, or in your personal life, in your contribution in your local communities, families, and so on. So let's now move to the cover letter, and here also the cover letter has two important sections that you need to consider. First is layout again, and second is content. In terms of layout, it is important to consider the length of it, the structure, and the font. As you can see here, the suggestion is very similar to the suggestion that you saw for the resume. So you need to use a one-page maximum length, then bullet point and indentation for the section of the cover letter, and then in terms of font, use clear professional fonts with a consistent size that must be parallel to what you use in your CV. In terms of content, here something is different compared to the CV, because you need to basically break down the cover letter into three sections. The first is about the firm, and this will be the first paragraph. The second one is about you. This will be the second paragraph, and the final and third paragraph is about the fit. So the combination of you and the firm. In terms of the firm, basically you have to answer to this question: why consulting? Why you want to join now and not in the future or in the past? Why that particular firm across all the others, and why that particular office within that firm? So basically, as you can see, these are the typically fit questions that you will be supposed to ask during the third part of the interview, but this is something that is required also into the first paragraph of your cover letter. Then moving to the second paragraph, you will have to explain yourself, what are your skills, your achievement on top of what you already explained in your CV. And here it is a great opportunity to address some weaknesses that maybe you may display on your CV, such as a non-proper linear path, or a background that is not so quantitative, or maybe you were not the top top achiever in a particular role, or not the top performer in your class, and so on. So this is very important, not only to show your skills, but also to address some hot topic that maybe feel a little bit weak just looking at your CV. And finally, the third aspect is to consider is your fit. So why your particular skills and your expertise may be a good fit for that particular firm. Maybe you have an interest into a particular industries or capabilities in which this firm is really strong in that particular office, and so that's why there is a perfect fit between your profile and that firm in that office. Or maybe you really engaged with the values of the firm, and because you spoke with some partners during some events, and you realized that that is really the company that resonates with you for that particular way that she tried to work with the people, with the client, and so on. And this is something that must emerge from your cover letter, because it clearly has to show that you chose that company and you want to work for them and not for others. Let's now have a look also here to a sample cover letter. As you can see also here, the structure is similar to the CV. You start with first the indication of your name and your contact details in case they wanted to reply back to your application and to ask you more details. Then the second part is the part about who will be the recipients of this letter. So you wanted to state first the date in which you apply to the job and you wrote this cover letter. Second, you wanted to address this letter to a particular company and a particular office in that company, and to clearly state what you are applying for. Are you applying for an internship? Are you applying for a full-time job? Are you applying for a particular office and location, and so on? So clearly state that, because sometimes it's not clear because the application could be generic. So just remember to clearly state that. And finally, start your cover letter with dear, name and surname of the HR manager of that particular office and that particular region, because in that case you clearly show that you did your due diligence and you know who you are talking to, and this is really important to make you stand out compared to the other applicants for the same role. Then you move to the first paragraph that is mentioned about why that firm, why consulting, why that office. The second paragraph will be about you, show your achievement, your skill, address any weak points, and finally the third paragraph about how your skills, your background, your expertise is a good fit for that particular firm in that particular company. And let's now move to the third and the last bullet point of our agenda, which is networking. But first of all, let me remind you to like this video if you really like the content of this session. Subscribe to this channel if you want to stay updated to any subsequent topic that we are going to address. Then activate the notification by clicking on the bell of this YouTube channel in order to be notified when a new video will be released. So first, comment if you like this video, if you appreciated the content that we are delivering, and also if you want some clarification about some topic that were covered here, or if you wanted to ask us to cover new topics in the future. And finally, remember to share this video to some of your peers that may be interested into this content, and so they may love to hear some of the information that we are sharing here. So let's now go back to networking. So networking is critical, and it is much more important, especially if you are not coming from a target school or a target employer, or you are employed not at the target time of the application cycle, or even of your life, because maybe you feel that you are too old or even too young to apply for this job. So I think that we have to look at three aspects when talking about networking. First of all is who to network with. Second is how to network, and third, when to network. In terms of who to network, there are very different options: HR, junior consultant, managed partners, or senior consultant, or alumni. And here, the key message is that you need to focus only on the people who have leverage in the firm in order to get you an interview. So it doesn't make so much sense to network with junior consultants or alumni if they are also junior, because they basically they don't have so much power in order to get your CV through, or you don't even know, for instance, in the case of alumni, if they left the firm because they were managed out, and so maybe they don't have even any good reputation inside the firm. So my suggestion is always to network first with HR and second with manager or partners, so people who have more leverage to get an interview for you. And this is very important, so don't waste time with junior people, also because sometimes junior feel that their big and only achievement in life is that they got into consulting, and so they may be even hostile for you to get you easily into the firm, because they may perceive that it is important for them to make you feel that getting into consulting is very hard and is a struggle, and so sometimes could be even detrimental to a junior staff of a consulting firm. Let's now move to the second topic, which is how to network with these people. So as you can understand, there are very different medium that you can use. You can start with LinkedIn, with email, phone call, or in-person networking. As you can see, these different means are also ranked in terms of how easy it is to network and what are the barriers to entry to do that. Is much easier to use LinkedIn in order to basically spam consultant and to get a reply, but at the same time, if it is so easy, everybody can do it, and so the consultant that will receive this kind of inbox in the email will not feel so special, and at the same time will not see you as a candidate that stand out compared to all the others that we do the same. The same is for the email. Email is much more personal, because anyway the email is something that any consultant look on a daily or hourly basis. So if you can retrieve the email, which is a very standard format, and you send a very personal email to that consultant, will be much better. And if you can do even something more personal, such as a phone call or an in-person meeting during an event, during something like that, that for sure will be even better, because the probability that this consultant will remember you is something that it will become very higher. The interaction with the consultant can also go through one of these different medium across time, because for instance you can start an interaction on LinkedIn and then build the interaction from LinkedIn to an email, from the email to a phone call, and so on. It all depends on you and your ability to keep the relationship going and to engage the consultant in order to make him or her interested in helping you in the long term. But the bottom line of this is that the more personal and the higher barrier the communication is, so the tougher is the communication in terms of the barriers to establish it, is the better, because you will create something more personal, and it also has to have more touch points to make it rememberable, and this is very important, because the more personal it becomes, the higher your probability to build something that may lead to an interview in the future. And finally, moving to when to have this networking, I think you should start to network as soon as possible. And there are two big moments. The one is the period that anticipate the on-cycle interview that could be on campus if you have the opportunity, if these companies come to your campus and they will interact with you, or off campus if your school is not target. And the second moment is the off-cycle interview process. Here, it depends a lot on if you are attending a target school and you are applying usually during the target periods. In that case, everything is much more structured. Your opportunity to interact with the people will be higher, but at the same time, the competition will be higher because all the people will apply in the same moment, and not only the people in your school, but also the people across very different schools. So on cycle is good if you are a candidate with a very strong profile because everything will be in place in order to make you succeed. But at the same time, if you are coming from a non-target school and you with a non-target background, maybe you should think carefully about applying off-cycle, because in that moment it's true that the recruiting process will not be as structured as during the off-cycle side, but at the same time your competition will be lower. So bottom line, off-cycle offer more opportunities, especially if you are applying from non-target school and from a non-target background. But at the same time, you need to start networking as soon as possible, because building a relationship takes time and you need to have multiple touch points if you need a referral from a senior consultant in order to get an interview. And that's it for networking and also for all the best practices to get an interview in a top management consulting firm. So I suggest you to again like this video, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification to get notified to any future material. In the next video we will talk about how to pass an interview in McKinsey, BCG and Bain. So we are approaching the content that you may be more interested in, because this is like the preparation for the case interview, which is basically what all this channel is about. So don't forget to comment and share this video, and to stay tuned for the next content of this channel, because I think that it will be interesting for you, and it will be very helpful, because we will go through everything that is necessary for you to pass an interview and to get an offer from one of these very prestigious firm. So stay tuned.